Hello my friends and family, I hope you're doing well. I've been wanting to record this full trip update for you and I have not been able to actually get it out. So here it is. If you got the time, see how long the video is and sit down with me, grab some coffee, grab some tea. Let me tell you a little bit about this cool trip I just took. It started with a bunch of cancellations actually. 4 out of the 5 events that I was supposed to participate in got canceled because of lack of snow, different things. So by the time I got to Italy, I had scrambled and I had looked for other events and I had found that there were other events that I could participate in somewhere in Switzerland and somewhere in Austria. So I made a different plan with different logistics, but I had already found the equipment that I needed, which was very specific for these level of races. All the equipment is very specific. So I had found the equipment from a distance, from Colombia, in a place in the north part of Italy, in Bolzano. And having done all that work, I didn't want to change those plans. I should have, now thinking about it, in hindsight of course. Because it would have been easier to leave from Milan up to Switzerland where I was going, but you know, I went for Bolzano because that's where the equipment was. So after 3 difficult trains, because it was hard to even communicate, I made it to Bolzano that afternoon about 6:30 p.m. By the time I got there, it was already dark. And one thing that I did not really account for is that in Bolzano, being in the very north part of Italy, about an hour from Austria, everybody speaks German. Hardly any Italian. In fact, that made it a little more difficult because I had been practicing for about a week and a half, a little bit of Italian so I could understand a little and I could get a few words out, but man, the German just really got me. So I got off the station, luckily, because I barely could figure out where to get off. I jumped off the train and I crossed the street with my suitcase and my bag, and the person from the Airbnb had sent me some good information on how to get there. You take the bus number 8, and then you go towards the hospital, and I used my translator to figure out what she was saying because everything was in German. So I crossed the street from the train station, and there was just a bunch of people walking around, everybody speaking German, and I was so disoriented. This was already night, like I didn't know where I was at all. This was very disorienting. It's the only word that I can come up with, really, is disorienting. And I looked up, it looked like I was in a little bus stop, and I looked up and I see bus number 8, and I'm like, oh crap, that's my bus. And I jumped on and I showed the guy my card, and I'm like, how do I pay, you know, in my sign language. And he shows me that to go to the back, and sure enough I go to the back and there's a tap option, so I boop, tap and the bus is paid. Luckily, that was easy. So I sit down and I start looking at the map and sort of listening out for the exit where I'm supposed to get off. And luckily, I was able to hear that. You know, I knew that I was kind of going towards the hospital because I was looking at my translator. And sure enough, about 15 minutes later, it was the Positano exit, and it was time for me to get out. And I got off the bus and I walked out into a field, walked around, and I got to the place where I was supposed to stay that night. Great. Then I left my stuff there and I went around for a little walk to a supermarket to grab a couple of fruits, some juice, just a few things. Went to sleep that night. I was beat. I was just so tired. I've been traveling now for like a day and a half, you know, with the time change. So I went to sleep, and in the next morning I woke up and raised the window, and it was just this amazing view of a cool vineyard right behind with the mountains. It really looked like a picture, like a painting that had been just like placed perfectly on that wall. It was amazing. I had a really good time with the Airbnbs this time. Just had a really good luck with the Airbnbs, I should say, not a really good time necessarily. So that morning in Bolzano, I had figured that I would rent a car. Now that I needed to go to Switzerland and Austria, I figured that the easiest thing was to rent a car, which in hindsight, I should have just rented from the beginning, because that would have been a lot easier to just leave from Milan in a rented car, get the equipment somewhere, find it, and then go to Switzerland. But anyway, I digress. I went and decided to rent a car that morning in Bolzano. So I left the Airbnb with my suitcase and my bag, walking towards a place that said that had rentals. It was about a half a mile away. I got there and it was completely closed, no sign that the place had even been there even. So I called and there was no answer. So I looked for other car rentals, and they said that most of them or all of them were at the airport. And I looked at the airport, was like 3 miles away. So I started walking. I'm like, okay, by the time that I'm walking a little bit, I'm sure I'll find a taxi. I'm sure I'll be able to jump on a bus or whatever. So I started walking there with my suitcase and my bag, kind of uncomfortable. You know how it is walking around with a rolling suitcase on the streets. It's not very comfortable or not very fun. But anyway, I continued walking towards the airport, and I saw a taxi, and I raised my hand, and the guy's like, yeah, come on. So perfect. I get in the car, the guy puts the suitcase in there, and as soon as he starts backing away, and I'm like, you know, sign language, airport, he starts backing away, and somebody knocks on the window and goes, hey, like, why are you leaving? This is my car. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, apparently you're supposed to call a cab. So the guy looks back at me and is like, oh, so you're not my guy? You didn't call? I'm like, no, I didn't call. I didn't know, you know. But again, this is all in sign language because they're both speaking German and I'm speaking none of it. So I get out of the car, and by this time I'm pissed, you know, just angry at the fact that I had finally found the cab, you know, a mile later, and they were kicking me out of it. I was just not very happy. But anyway, I continued walking, thinking that I could get on a bus. And to make the story short, I did not get on a bus. I did not get on a cab. I ended up walking those 3 miles with my suitcase. And anyway, I finally got to the airport, and the guy at the rental place spoke Italian, and he spoke some Spanish and some English. So I was able to rent a car. We were able to somewhat communicate. Rented a car, a little Fiat 500 that did really, really well, even in the snow. It was a good choice after all. I mean, it turned out to be a good little car. So I started driving towards the place where I was supposed to buy the equipment, which was in the same city, just a few miles away. And I got there about 10:15 or so, and I started getting fitted for all the equipment. And there was a guy there that had raced GS, and he also spoke some English. So I was able to communicate with him, and he was able to help me out with some of the choices that I was making, a little bit about the equipment, and tell me what was required, what was not required, because looking at the list, you know, it's just complicated. Let's just put it that way. So I had all the equipment I needed. I had bought skis, new boots, helmet, the anti-cut gear. I had bought the suit, the race suit, all the things that I needed. I was basically ready by about 12:30 or 1 in the afternoon that day. And that afternoon, I was supposed to get to Zinal, Switzerland, where I was supposed to hopefully practice that day. But I knew I wasn't going to get to practice because I was still like 6.5 hours away. So looking at the map, thinking it's like 1 p.m., I have a 5.5 hour route through the south going back to Milan and then back up to Switzerland, or I could take the scenic route for about an hour extra and go up through the Alps and around. And I thought, well, on the way back, I'm definitely going to have to run on the lower route and make it quick because I have a race the next day. But on the way there, well, I'm not going to make it to practice today. I might as well take the extra hour and see the scenic route. And man, this was the worst decision of the trip. This really made the trip entirely really, really difficult. Because after I started driving and, oh my God, this is beautiful. Look at the Alps. Look at all this gorgeous terrain. It started snowing. And I'm talking like hard snowing, complete whiteout conditions, hard to drive, very slippery, not very good, not very smart. If I did not have the accumulation of skills, driving in the mountain, driving in the snow, and driving a bunch of different cars, I think I would have died. Really, I saved myself so many times just sliding around, and it was difficult. It was really, really difficult. After about 6.5 hours of driving, thinking that I should be there by now, I got to a place where it was a shuttle. I needed to jump on a train, and I did not realize that the map had shown me this route requires a railway shuttle, like for me to get on a train, and I did not understand that. I didn't see it. So to make a long story short, I had to go back down and drive a better route, put my chains on, drove through the snow a bunch. It was difficult. And I ended up taking about 12 hours to drive this 6-hour drive. So I ended up getting to Sierre, Switzerland, which is where I was staying that night, at about 12:30 that night. And I was sharing an Airbnb with this guy. So I was going into somebody's house that offers a room in a shared Airbnb, basically. Super nice. I really, again, had a really good luck with all the Airbnbs. This guy was named Killian. Super calming, super relaxing, clean place. Perfect place for me to just spend the night and spend a couple of nights, because I had a 2-day event there in Zinal, Switzerland, which is about 45 minutes to an hour away from there. So anyway, I went to sleep. I got all my equipment out, laid it out, got it ready, and I went to sleep. And the next morning, I got up early. I went to Zena. I drove, and I got there to a gondola, and I saw that there were some competitors going up that gondola, and I'm like, must be it. So I put my stuff on, and I went up to the gondola. But it took me some time to figure it out, to figure out like where it was, and like that I should go, and that I should put my gear on, and all these things. Just like the not knowing of the thing, right? This was my absolutely very first experience with giant slalom racing, and at that level, like it's completely different than anything else I've ever done. So I got there to the gondola, and I told the guy in my broken language and sign language that I was competing, and he's like, "What, coach?" No, competing. I had to like show him that I was in race suit for him to realize. He's like, "What, competing? Colombia? What?" Anyway, gave me my ticket to go up finally after I convinced him. I put my ticket to go up, and I made it up there. And I made it up there, and of course I saw that they were racing up there, so I got on another lift, and I got to the top. And when I got to the place where the race was, some people pointed me to the race, and I saw the people that were obviously in race attire. And when I got there, the race had already started. So I didn't get to do a course check, which is obviously very important, knowing when it's fast, when it's slow, what curves are sharp, what curves are a little shallower. All those things are really important to recognize the course. So I missed that. But in my broken sign language, I was able to get information from the top about what my vest was, because everybody gets these vests with a number. So I asked what my vest was, and they told me it was 119, and I'm like, oh, perfect, so I have time. He's like, yeah, you got like an hour and a half is what I was able to deduce from what he was saying. So I skied down on the side of the course, kind of watching the others compete. There was about 120 competitors, and keep in mind, they're all about 18 to 25 years old or so. So, a lot faster, a lot more stamina. They do this every day. And me in my brand new boots, brand new skis, brand new absolutely everything, and brand new experience, really not knowing absolutely anything. So I went on the side of the race and kind of saw what they were doing, and I went down to the bottom, put my vest on, because now I knew what my number was. And I got back on the lift, and I went back up to the top. And by the time that I got to the top, it was basically time to go. It was number 115, 116, 117, 118, and it's time to go. And one thing that I didn't really realize, didn't think about, is that all these kids have teams, right? They're representing Switzerland, and there's a bunch of them. They're representing Italy, and there's a bunch of them. They're representing France, and there's a bunch of them. And they have their team captain. They have their people that are like scraping their skis and giving them a pat on the back and yelling, go, 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 go. Not me. I was completely by myself. So that experience was a little interesting in the whole scheme of things. But anyway, 117, 118, 119 is time to go. So I scrape my own skis, I get myself there, I pat myself on the back and go, right? And I went completely blind because I had never seen the course from the course before. And I got to the bottom, and I thought, you know what, I did okay. I feel like I did okay, but I really need to do a lot better, obviously. Because, it's my first time. I know that there's a lot of room to improve. So I got to the bottom, and then, I took a little break there. And I got back up to the top, and I checked around, and they were kind of changing the course, and I went back down and I went back up when the course was supposed to be inspected, and somehow I missed it again. Like I got there too late and I couldn't inspect the course. There are 2 runs per event, so every time there's 2 runs, and they switch them in the middle of the day. So there's 1 run, and then they change the flags. It's the same slope, but they change the flags, so the turns are different, the slope is a little bit different. So I missed this second course check somehow because I went around one more time, just again not knowing how to do these things, like not knowing how these things really work. So I went again blind, but this time thinking, well, I'm gonna go faster, right? Because I went a little slow. I felt a little slow last time because I was just kind of checking out the course. I'm gonna go fast. And sure enough, I went fast, but about turn 6 or 7, my heels slipped out, and I went pop, 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 skipping like a little rock, because that's what you do when you have a race suit on, and you're slick and the floor is slick. So after skipping for a little while, I got up and I just finished the race, but on the side of the course. I didn't get to race the course because once you're out, you're out. I did not know that when you don't have a score for one of the runs, you don't get a score for the entire day. And what I really needed was the score. I needed to know what my points were so that I knew kind of where I was standing so that I could make decisions about whether I should keep going or not keep going, or go harder or go slower, right? Not slower, obviously. Well, I figured the next day I would be a little more rested. Now I kind of knew how things would be. So I went right back to the house. I grabbed the pizza, which was the one thing that was kind of easy to order in German. And I went back to the house, rested, and I went to sleep. Next day, I was still very tired from the trip, tired from the whole experience, but I got to Zina early on. I knew when I was supposed to be there. I knew where I was supposed to be. So I'm like, this day is going to go much better. So I got on the gondola, and sure enough, once we got past the point where I can't get off anymore, the thing stopped for like 25 minutes. And I saw them telling everybody to go to the other lift, all the competitors, yeah, go to the other lift, and I'm stuck behind the platform. And by the time that the gondola went up and let me out basically off the platform, and I was able to get my vest and figure out where I was supposed to go, take the other lift, get to the top, by the time that all that happened, I had already missed the course check. Can you believe it? So second day, knowing that I had to be there, knowing the timing, and I got there and it was too late for the course check. So for the second day, I had to do it again blind. But second day, now knowing that I didn't get a score the last time because I fell, I knew that all I wanted to do was not fall. I needed a score. So I went a little slower. I took my turns a little more open. I was a little bit more careful, which obviously hurts the scores. But I did get to race, and I did get to be about 32 seconds behind the leader. Again, these are 18 to 25-ish year olds, and they're all doing this all day, every day. So me, with all the circumstances against me, coming in about 32 seconds behind the leader, I didn't think that was too bad. However, that's still not the points that I need. Once I ran that first race, I went right back up and I just waited because I knew that I wanted to have a course check, at least do it right one time and see what it was like. So I waited, I did the course check, I raced again, and sure enough, again, I was about 32 seconds from the leader in that race. So I left Switzerland that day, heading straight to the north of Italy again, to Bolzano, near Bolzano, where I was starting, because there was another competition there in Felders, where I was supposed to be. So I started driving, and I finally heard about the points that I actually had. I knew by looking that there were 32 seconds, and by looking at the points, it was 476 points, which is just way too many points. Lower points is better. So I did not have enough points to qualify or enough points to even be close, and I was so tired and just so beat from the driving and the skiing and just the mental fatigue of the whole experience that on my drive back to Felders, I decided to take the day off the next day. I just figured if my points were close, that by skiing the next day, maybe I could get there, sure. But if my points are so far that by getting there and still being so tired, I'm still going to perform mediocre, then I didn't want to do it. I just decided not to. So that night I stayed in a hotel in Milan, and the next morning I got up and got a really good breakfast and started driving towards Innsbruck, where my next competition was, in Austria. Basically back up to Bolzano and continuing north to Austria, to a place called Birgitz, a little bit southwest of Innsbruck. Coolest little Tyrolean town with the perfect Tyrolean houses with the different color frames and the Alps background plastered with snow. Just amazing. Just a beautiful, cool little place. Again, really good luck with all the Airbnbs. They were really good. So I went to sleep that day thinking, tomorrow I'm going with all of it. I'm rested. I feel good about this. I'm going. So next morning, fully rested, I got up early, I got in the car, and I drove to Meyerhofen, and I was there at 8 a.m., standing in front of the gondola, and there are no racers, and the gondola is closed. So I'm like, drive to the next gondola, and it's closed. Next gondola, and it's closed. All the lifts that I could see all around town, the Meyerhofen-Hippach area, were closed. So looking at all the instructions for the event, showing, oh, there's an address here. I show up to the address, and apparently it was the house of the organizer or something in the middle of town. It was not the place. So I drove around in circles for an hour and 45 minutes, and I looked at the app, and it said that they were already starting. And, you know, of course, I then waited in the parking lot looking around going, where the heck am I? How do I get to this place? And I saw that the race was going, and then they started racing, and I basically missed not only the course check, but missed the entire race. So that day I was down. I went back home with my tail between my legs, feeling really, really crappy about myself. Just I did not want to do anything for the rest of the trip. I was down. The next day, I woke up and I didn't want to, and I didn't do anything. I basically slept most of the day. I walked around the town for a little bit to kind of get a feel for things. I went to the supermarket, bought a few things to cook at home because I didn't really want to go out, talk to people. I was just so down and annoyed about the mess that had happened in Meyerhofen, because that was my opportunity to actually be rested and have a little bit of an idea of what to do, how to do it, the timing, and I missed that opportunity. So at that moment, there was a decision to either extend the trip and go to other couple of races, or basically end the trip and end the dream right there. And in speaking with Sebastian, the captain of the winter section of the Colombian committee, he says, well, you don't have to represent Colombia in these Olympics. I mean, these were just fast and they were there, but you could just go to the World Cup in 2027 and represent us there. And he sent me the profile for an athlete that's like in his late 50s that has been representing Mexico for a long time and has done so in multiple Olympics, even at his age now. So I looked at that and I think, well, there is more opportunity. I don't have to make it to these Olympics. It would be great, but you know, if I have to let this dream fade, that's okay, because I could make it maybe, but I would have to train all winter, and I just don't have the means or the ability to train all winter right now. You know, I've been training all winter the last few winters, but not for this particular event. And now it's gonna have to change because I do want to participate. I do want to represent Colombia, and I think it's a good opportunity because I am at a level where I can ski those competitions, and I am still happy enough to be competing and to be an athlete. I'm still in shape enough to do it. So I figure that if there are other opportunities, I'm going to continue to represent Colombia doing that. So I packed the equipment. Instead of selling it or shipping it off to somebody that would keep it for me, I packed the equipment and brought it back to Colombia with the plan on continuing to train kids and continuing to train families to ski from here forward. And in next year, June, July, August, September, basically the Southern Hemisphere winter, going to Chile and Argentina and spending it in that area, competing and training and having camps of these kids that have these Olympic dreams coming over to Chile and Argentina to train with me. So the dream continues. The dream of the Olympics is fading for now, but I'm not taking my sights off of the 2030 because you never know what could happen. But my sights are now set on the World Cup in 2027. So I will keep you posted on that. And I have a lot of these ideas and thoughts that have come out and lessons that I've learned through these experiences that I want to share with you. And I'm going to continue doing that, but I'm not going to send them on a private video like this. I'm actually going to put them on my YouTube channel. So if you want to participate, you can find them there. And finally, I just want to thank you for your support, for everything you've done to support me positively, to give me strength to go, to donate money for me to go. And even if you're a naysayer and you have been like, nah, Juan, you are crazy, you can never do that. You know, everything is motivation, so I really appreciate all of you and your support in whatever way you've sent it. So there are more thoughts in new videos to come. I hope you enjoyed this trip recap, and thank you for listening. I'll see you soon.